visitors return time and time again to Disneyland Park for the timeless stories and attractions that they remember from their first visit. Through the years, Disneyland Resort needed to evolve with the ever-changing tastes of a demanding audience.
Part of this is due to the fact that the guests are seeing in entertainment, in movies and video games, much richer worlds. Our characters brought to life in ways that never were possible before.
Disneyland Park was for most theme park goers a one-day experience, immensely popular to Southern Californians who treasured the ability to pop over to the park for a day or an afternoon. Meanwhile, on the other side of the country in Florida, Walt Disney World expanded beyond expectations, becoming the company's premier destination resort. It was time for Disney to apply that successful formula to Disneyland Resort. So in 2001, a second theme park was introduced just across from Disneyland Park that would celebrate the adventure and discovery that is embodied by the spirit of California, Disney California Adventure Park. A theme park about California, in California? It opened to great fanfare in 2001 with some pioneering attractions and experiences that charted new territory for Disneyland Resort. But there was something missing.
And what we found was that our guests loved going on many of the attractions, but they didn't necessarily want to spend the day there. They would go back to Disneyland and spend the rest of the day.
So once again, Disney's Imagineers rolled up their sleeves and set about reimagining Disney California Adventure.
We listened to our guests, and what they told us is they wanted more of the Disneyland experience. They wanted more of that core Disney immersive placemaking and storytelling.
It took more than 5 years, but Disney was able to transform Disney California Adventure Park into a full-day experience. The newly invigorated park now has 8 themed lands, just like Disneyland Park, up from 4 when the park opened.
What we've done over the last 5 years is transformed that park experience into something that is very complementary to the original Disneyland. We've taken some of what we call the DNA of Walt Disney himself, and we've added that to Disney California Adventure.
One element that was missing was an inviting and immersive entranceway that takes visitors to another time and place.
We realize that that's a very important part of our DNA, is to give people a place where they can forget the outside world, get them into a time and a place that isn't their common experience every day.
For Disneyland Park, this is Main Street, USA. At Disney California Adventure, it's Buena Vista Street. This new gateway to Disney California Adventure captures the land of dreams and opportunity that was Los Angeles in the 1920s when Walt Disney stepped off the train. This opening scene to Disney California Adventure culminates at the one building that is a scale replica of a real place, the Carthay Circle Theater.
It's the icon to this park, and the significance of this theater is that's where Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs premiered in 1937, which changed the whole industry of animation and turned the Walt Disney Company around.
Had that film not been a success or flopped, we wouldn't be here today.
Disney's version of the famed theater from Hollywood's golden age isn't a theater at all. It's a luxury dining experience that few would expect inside a theme park.
Our goal there was to really create the night of the premiere, an after party for the Snow White movie. It really is a grand celebration of the success of the Disney name.
Another authentic experience from 1920s LA pulls up just outside the Carthay Circle Theater. A trip on Disney's red car trolley will take visitors to another Disney landmark set in the 1930s. But this one isn't quite as full of hope and optimism. It's the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, located in Hollywoodland. If you dare to check into the Hollywood Tower Hotel, you'll be there for a stay you won't soon forget.
This elevator travels directly to the Twilight Zone.
A creepy lift operator is happy to seat you in the service elevator. It's only when the doors close that you realize there's no turning back.
We purposely positioned the Tower of Terror so the screams would go out in the park. I mean, the screams are sort of an old circus trick. You put the barker out in front and whet people's appetite, and I think the screams throughout the park whet people's appetite. Say, what's going on here? I need to go check that out.
Hollywoodland is also home to a number of attractions that feature familiar characters from recent Disney films. Monsters, Inc. Mike and Sully to the rescue. Turtle Talk with Crush. And Disney's Aladdin, a musical spectacular. Right next door, A Bug's Land recreates the world of Flick, Hopper, and even Heimlich in some larger-than-life experiences. Disney's relationship with Pixar inspired Disney's Imagineers to take theme park visitors into three-dimensional Pixar worlds in a way few would imagine. In fact, the collaboration resulted in the largest and most ambitious creation at Disney California Adventure.
When we were looking for ideas to expand Disney California Adventure, one of the first ideas was to go into the movie Cars and create a ride or a land based on the movie.
And so, Cars Land was born. Step into Cars Land, and you'll feel like you just stepped into Radiator Springs, the cutest little town in Carburetor County, from the Disney Pixar animated Cars movie.
Everything about it to be exactly like it was in the movie, so that you could visit Radiator Springs and see it for yourself.
We built the town of Radiator Springs based on the movie. It's exactly laid out in the same order as you see things in the film.
You can pull up for a bite to eat at Flo's V8 Cafe, a 1950s-style drive-in. Grab a concoction from the Cozy Cone Motel, or stop off for a souvenir of old Route 66 at Sarge's Surplus Hut. Cruising down Route 66, there's Mater's Place, where you can climb on board Mater's Junkyard Jamboree.
So we came up with this idea to take this amazing new ride mechanism and do it to where you're not connected to the ride yourself, but a little baby tractor the Nader has captured is connected to the ride mechanism, and then you're behind it in a trailer, and it could be a whip ride, like this great feeling that we've never had at a Disney park.
Down the road a bit, there's Luigi's Flying Tires, an idea based on the 1960s Disneyland ride, The Flying Saucers of Tomorrowland. When Luigi tells Guido to turn on the air compressor, these giant tires actually lift 2 inches off the ground. That's where the fun begins. By leaning one way or another, riders can direct their tires to move.
Luigi's Flying Tires was completely designed and engineered by Imagineering. There's nothing else like it. And it is a big challenge of how do you lift these tires up high enough and safely enough and give people enough power or force beneath them to be able to fly around.
Taking a two-dimensional film and turning it into a three-dimensional town was no small feat.
For one thing, we know that a lot of our guests have probably seen it hundreds of times with their kids, and they're going to hold us to, if you're going to walk into this movie, it better look like the movie. But on top of that, we knew that our guests would be walking in and out of these buildings, which you don't do in the film.
The thought and attention to detail that run through Radiator Springs is remarkable, but there is one feature that overwhelms visitors when they first arrive: the Cadillac Mountain Range. Overlooking Ornament Valley, its highest peak is fashioned after a 1959 Cadillac tail fin.
We realized we had to deliver on something that is probably the hardest thing you would ever have to do in the artificial world, and that is to replicate the awe of nature. There's nothing more difficult than that.
According to Disney's Imagineers, the mountain range was unusually complex, both from a design and structural perspective. They estimate more than 28,000 hours were spent on this 125-foot-tall range, and at 280,000 square feet, it's the largest rock formation in any domestic Disney theme park.
Ornament Valley was such a feat of artistry and craftsmanship and construction all coming together at the same time. It's not easy building a mountain.
While the Cadillac range is impressive, what really gets people revved up lies in the valley below. One of Disney's most technically challenging attractions, Radiator Springs Racers. This road trip begins by winding through the monumental passages of the Cadillac Range. After passing the massive rock formations and a 60-foot-tall waterfall, passengers enter the nighttime world of Radiator Springs. The film's famous characters make appearances. Passengers then arrive at either Luigi's Casa della Tires or Ramon's House of Body Art, where their car gets a final checkup before heading to the starting line. Then the cars hit the track for a race to the finish line. Disney had already developed the track technology. The real breakthroughs came with the advancement of Disney's audio animatronic figures.
You can't underestimate the difficulty of making a car talk, give a car personality, and have it match what you see in the film.
What you can do in an animated movie, what Pixar does so well with squash and stretch and expressions on vehicles, is very difficult to do in the physical world. In order to bring those characters to life, we had to invent new materials. We had to reinvent the entire process of how we create an audio animatronic figure.
The big challenge with Mater Kurtzer is his big buck teeth, and he's very, very articulated, and he moves a lot, almost like a puppy dog. And so this tow truck had to have this flexibility to it that you just don't find in the real world.
We've barely seen half of Disney California Adventure. When we come back, experience a high-speed launch, soar above the California landscape, take a trip through Ariel's undersea world, and get seriously wet on a wild whitewater adventure when Disneyland Resort Behind the Scenes continues.